Next up, working on the boot thigh plates. These will arguably be one of the easier parts to do because it'll be very similar to what I did with the Therian Jin armor. What I've got here is the template I'm using, and then pieces to form the, for lack of a better term, pad going up against the boot for both sets. There'll be a detail piece, just using that as a to give you a gauge, going up above the knee, basically to crest the knee, be kind of pointed. But that'll only be on the central layer. So far, so good. Alright, what we got here is the beginnings of the central plates for the legs. Base part is cut to the same specs as the foam underlayment. I've also added a tip to them to come up over the knee. Once I get that all trimmed out, dang, we'll be up to heat treat. Alright, as you can see, I've taken my Dremel and trimmed down the plates. At this point, they need to be shaped, and then it'll be time to start some basic assembly. Alright, been heat forming the shin pieces. Like I did with the thigh plates, I heat formed the foam to fit inside the centra, and heated the centra to fit over my shin. This is, of course, my son's set, and then there's my set. Now, with mine, because excuse the shakes, the centra was starting to run out, I cut this piece in two, but since I'm going to be putting a detail piece across this seam, the seam itself won't really matter. So, next up to get the straps and the foam inside the plates. Alright, as you can see, basic assembly of the boot pieces is done now. I've got the straps in place, secured with a combination of Gorilla Glue and contact cement. These are designed to go over the same boots that we use in our other cosplays. At this point, I'm really glad I'm going to be covering that seam, but I knew that was going to be bad, so I'm not that worried about it. But at this point, we're ready for detail on the pieces, and we will go from there. Alright, at this point, basic construction of the boot plates is now finished. As you can see, there are some slight differences as to how they got trimmed out. Mine, I opted to leave this gap up here, whereas for my son's, he decided he wanted to go a different route and leave the gap here on his. I like that because even without labeling them, it'll be easy to tell whose is whose. Well, at this point, it's about time to get some plaster dip on this. Alright, as you can tell by the noise, we're in the spray room. And what I've got here is 4 pieces with a coat of black Plastidip. At this point, next stop will be the gunmetal and these guys will be just about done. Alright, after a coat of Krylon's gunmetal and a coat of Krylon Crystal Clear, both my boot plates and my son's boot plates are officially done. As you can see, they're quite long, but this whole section here is to go above the boot line and basically give knee protection, or at least the illusion of it. But with that, it's about time to wrap these suits up. Well, at least his. Alright, back at it on the armor front. What I've got here are the foam pieces for the Zolus props version of the Mandalorian chest piece. Currently laid out in 6mm HD foam. Some of the pieces will get covered with some 1/8" Sintra, keeping the theme that's been going. A couple of the pieces won't, but we'll play that part by ear and slowly but surely get where we need to be. And continuing what has been a very productive day, we now have the 1/8" Sintra pieces cut out. These will go over the tops of the corresponding foam pieces. Slowly but surely we'll get this plate done and replace the bulkier one that I made earlier. Alright, as you can see, I've got the breast portion of the Zolus props Mando plate rubber cemented together. I've gone ahead and used the Sintra piece for the center bit. I hollowed that out with my Dremel. To reinforce that joint, since it's kind of thin, I went ahead and cemented some craft foam to the back. Now, on the ab plate, I've got all 5 pieces glued together. Well, 5 of the 6. I haven't put the piece that goes through here on yet. As you can see, I've started gluing down the Sintra plates, which I will do before I put the last piece in. Okay, the new chest piece is now fully assembled. I've still got to figure out how I want to deal with actually wearing it. The back piece for this version of things is relatively simple. It's basically a back plate with a backer. So, I'll cross that road shortly. But all in all, it actually looks pretty close to what Zolus came up with. Of course, this is my own spin on it because I bulked it up with the actual Sintra plating. It's not perfect. I freely confess that. But you know what? I like how it turned out. Now, while this may not look like much, I basically cut a piece of Sintra and a piece of 4mm foam, much like I did with the chest piece, to create the back plate. Zolus didn't really include a template for it, and he himself said basically you just need a square-ish piece. I cut the corners off to kind of make it a little different, and at this point both the back plate and the chest piece are now ready for a coat of Plastidip. Alright, in the spray room, as you can see, I've got a nice coat of black Plastidip in place on both the chest and back plates. Next stop will be the gunmetal I've been using, and we'll go from there. Okay, as you can see, the chest piece and back piece now have their coat of Krylon's cold flat iron. For the back piece it's done. For the chest I've still got some detail painting I want to do. But we're getting there. Alright, I've gone in and painted the same striping I did on the larger version of this, on the Mandalorian Mercs version of this, as well as the same emblem I put on. At this point, basically we need stripes, or we need straps rather, but this one is, this new breastplate is basically done and ready.